Hi, everyone. I'm not sure if anyone's joining us yet, but we're going to start on time. Hi, everyone. This is Wildlife Conversations. I'm Jen Ritchie. I am a portrait and wildlife photographer based in Indiana, and I absolutely love wildlife photography. So you might wonder, why Wildlife Conversations? Well, I had the privilege of going to Alaska this summer, and after shooting brown bears for a week, my last day, I got to meet with a couple of my friends, wildlife photographers, Jenny Canon and Maureen Madsen. And we spent the day together, and the conversation kept coming back to, we need a space for more voices in this field. And we'd love to hear more from our colleagues that we see every day on Instagram, like to see their faces, like to hear more of their stories. And then Maureen got home and she continued that conversation in her stories on Instagram. You can check those out actually in her highlights. And I had been thinking about wanting to do something like this for probably a year. And so here we are, our first episode of Wildlife Conversations. So if you're here, you can type in the chat, tell us where you're from, tell us where you're listening from, and we'll have question and answer later if you'd like to ask questions then. So now I get to introduce my first guest, Michelle Osterhus. Is that right?
Yeah, you got it right. Osterhus.
I think Dan and I have been pronouncing it wrong, and then I realized I think it's not what I'm saying. So, for we met last fall in Wyoming on the banks of a river, shooting otters together, and became
Did.
fast friends. So, you want
We
to tell
did.
us a little bit about how we met? It was a great afternoon.
Oh my gosh, it was so fun. So we were both buzzing around the Tetons as wildlife photographers do. That's a wildlife hotspot, right? I mean, there's just not only do you get to take advantage of all that beautiful wildlife, but you have landscape opportunities galore too. So we were out driving around and we kept passing this white Jeep. And there was this very bubbly gal that was in this white Jeep, and we just kept landing at the same places, and we started talking, and then we figured out that we were both kind of sitting on the banks a little bit of the river and just kind of looking around and looking for what we thought were maybe otter. We had heard rumors that there were some otter, but
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't seen any yet and been there a couple of times, and I don't even know at that point, had you seen any yet?
I don't think so. Just kept hearing that rumor and waiting and
Yeah.
waiting. Yep.
Yeah, so we made like a date to come back and to
Really.
see these guys during sunset. And then as stuff kind of progresses, when you're out and about between Yellowstone or Tetons or Glacier National Park, wherever you are, you come across something really interesting. And so best laid plans often get thwarted.
That's right.
And so I was very much enjoying a moose encounter. And I got this frantic text because we had exchanged numbers at that point. And you're like, "Where are you? You are going to be here at 3, and there's otters." And so we proceeded to probably drive a little bit beyond what is the posted speed limit to get
Not that
there.
people
And
should do that.
I think I might have even jumped out of the car prior to it
I
coming to
think
a
you did.
stop. I think so. Because I was so excited. Like I had just, oh my gosh, just otters. I just think they're so fascinating to watch, and they're so fun in the water. They're just everywhere.
Yep.
Anyway, so we had quite a bonding experience because we had an entire family of otters.
Yep.
I don't think I'm exaggerating. Was it 10, 12 otters?
I think it was seven,
Oh,
but it
okay.
felt like that because they just piled
They
out of the
kept doing
bed.
these cuddle puddles, like they
Yep.
were paddling all
Oh
over.
yeah.
You could keep tabs on them.
Yeah, you're right.
And we just kept following him down the riverbank. Like we were just like full on sprint at certain times, and then we would sit down and watch, and then full on sprint. And
Yep.
I didn't know you, I didn't know your husband, and I was running out of battery. And at one point, I just looked at your husband and threw him my car keys and, "Could you go in my bag and get me a battery?" Because he was not taking pictures; he was
Right.
enjoying the otters with the
Yep.
rest of us. There was quite a
Right.
few photographers at that point, and
Yep.
it was a pretty cool night. I mean, we were there, right through sunset,
It
and
was
they
great.
eventually took off and did their otterly thing,
Yes.
and
Yep.
then
It was
we
great. It was you and your friend Sandy.
yeah,
And then we
yeah,
met Claire from London.
Yes.
And then Philip Scrimshaw was there. I think that's, yeah. And so
Yeah.
I still keep in contact with all of them. It's like our little Otter Gang. And I
Yeah.
still keep, Instagram contact with all of them. And Claire's in London. I still try to keep up with her a little bit. So she was so sweet. But what a magical, magical afternoon and evening. It
Yeah, I
really
wish I would
was.
have actually gotten some decent pictures. I think I learned a lot about my camera that night and what it was capable of and what it wasn't, between dealing with the sun and water and
The water was
very
tough.
fast moving little creatures that you never know when they're going to pop up or pop down,
That's
and a
right.
lot of, they love the mud and the muck. And so, as a wildlife photographer, you're always looking for these really cool, clean backgrounds, and we had anything but.
Right.
So yeah, it was a very interesting night. It was
It
it was
was.
magical in so many ways. So
It
just,
was. It was
yeah, yeah,
dream
it
moments, just the
was.
gestures and the activity. And I think at one point the five younger ones left, and we were left with kind of the parents for a little bit.
Yeah,
But they
yeah.
just stuck with us. I mean, we had to keep trucking pretty far, but they stayed with us much longer than I imagined they would. And
Well, it was cute because they'd kind of pop up and look at us and come over towards us like
mhm,
like just little teases. Like, we're gonna
mhm,
come just
mhm.
close enough that you think we're gonna be close, and then we're gonna pop back down and head the other way. So
Yeah,
yeah, it was a great night.
dream moments. That really
Yeah.
was. I had been looking for a few years to find otters and had found them here locally, and then just had luck that year finding them in the Tetons. So, and it was just even better to spend it with such nice people. And you and I just became fast friends.
Oh
And
my gosh, it was great, right? It
yeah,
was, I just went away from that experience going, hey, I made a new friend. I met some otters.
I
Like,
know.
just a really fun night. Yeah.
I
And then
know.
we
And I
had a
have to
really
say to
cool,
everybody, sorry, Michelle, like,
nothing.
you still will text me pictures of white Jeeps. Not
I
you.
do. Not
But
you.
I
I
love
do.
that.
Every
It's
time
not
I see a
you.
white Jeep, I'm like, not you.
I
Because
know.
it's
It's
such a
so
bummer because
cute.
they were there in a white Jeep. So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you're in Minnesota.
I am.
And
Yes.
so what do you shoot in Minnesota? Is this your full-time job?
I wish it was my full-time gig.
Yes, don't we all?
Maybe I'll work that out someday. I'll puzzle that out when I get maybe a little bit more mature, because I'm so young. That's why I'm wearing glasses, to hide the wrinkles.
Oh yeah,
But
me too.
in Minnesota, we have a pretty healthy wildlife population. And what's interesting is that, I started my career in landscape and people. Like, I did weddings and I did senior pictures. And there's people have a good side, and they don't want to look fat. They don't want to show a pimple. They don't want a hair out of place. Animals
Yeah.
don't care. It's
Yeah,
quite
yeah.
cool.
It's
Like, you
true.
never get the call from the animal saying, hey, you didn't show my good side. So wildlife photography became a big draw for me. And then I found a lot of amazing photographers in Minnesota who really were generous enough to sort of
Mm,
unlock that key of exactly what I could see here, and where to go find them. I mean,
wow.
I am not the finder. You can put an owl right in front of me and I will miss it. So that's really sad when you're a wildlife photographer. But luckily for me, I've got great friends.
That's
And
good.
so, I shoot a lot of owls. Well, they say we have 12 species of owls. That's not true. We got 10.
Mm,
Just
mhm.
to set the record straight. We got 10 that we can shoot from, but we also have bobcat, lynx. We've got ermine, pine marten, all, a really healthy bird population. We've got fox, wolves, moose, you name it. I mean, we have quite a nice, healthy population of animals, and a lot of them that I mentioned are just in your suburban neighborhoods around the Twin City
Yeah.
Metro. I mean, if I really want to get into like a snowy owl or northern hawk owls or pine martens, typically I got to go north for that. And especially for moose, I've got to go up to Grand Marais area along the Gunflint Trail. But
Mhm.
that's 3 hour drive, 3.5 hour drive. So often I will get up at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, make a full day of it, and then come home at, 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Well, I hope people check out your photography because you have such a variation of landscapes, animals, places you've traveled. It's just gorgeous. But yeah, you did talk about your owls, and you've had a lot of owls lately. And the Badlands trip was amazing. We can get to that later. But I wanted to ask you,
Yeah.
so you kind of shared how you got into photography, but how did you decide what you were going to shoot and which gear you were going to pick? That's a
Well,
big quest for people.
yeah. So I've always dabbled in photography, always been in it. Like I said, I did people photography and did some landscape and travel photography. And what really drew me in was whales. Those are actually my favorite thing to photograph,
Wow.
is whales. And when you live in Minnesota, there's just not a lot of whales. We got a lot of water, but we got no whales. And so I had been following this professional photographer for years. And my favorite animal, let me back up. I was going to be a marine behavioral biologist when I went to school. So I've got a degree in biology. That's what I was going to do.
That's
Like me and
amazing.
Shamu, we're going to be tight. But it didn't go that way. But I always have had a love for
Yeah.
whales. And so been watching this photographer for years, and I finally decided, okay, I'm gonna get it out of my system. Like I'm just gonna get this out of my system. I'm gonna go out to the San Juan Islands and I'm
Wow.
gonna go see the orcas out there, and I'm just gonna spend a long weekend. Lo and behold, took a girlfriend, did the whole thing, got out there, saw nothing. And so we were walking back on the dock, head down. I was like all bummed, like, oh man, like I just spent all this money to come out
Right.
here and I didn't see anything. And this guy is walking towards me on the dock. And I looked up and I go, oh my God, I think that's Aaron Bagenstos. Well, he happened to be the photographer that I've been following all these years.
Oh
And
my
he had a
goodness.
photography group with him. And they were showing me back at camera all these amazing pictures that they got of these orcas. And I thought, are you kidding me right now? I am in the same place as him and I saw nothing and they saw all of this. So I got on my little puddle plane to go back to Washington mainland. And as I was on the plane, I signed up for one of his seminars.
Nice.
And
Nice.
so the next summer I came back, and I came back with my Nikon 750.
Mm-hmm.
And he looked at me and he said, well, that's an awfully nice dinosaur you have there.
Oh,
And so I was shooting next to people that were shooting Sony and nicer Canon cameras. And I still got some really great
that's
shots on
still
that
a
trip.
great camera. Yeah.
But that trip was supposed to be the trip that got that urge out of me. That was supposed to be like my end thing.
Right.
Like, okay, I got it out of my system. I'm all good. I
Sure,
went back
sure.
home and I looked at my husband and I said, you created a monster and I'm really sorry, but I need new gear. I
Yeah.
need a computer. I need, the needs just boop, 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 boop. I was
I
like,
think
I
people can
need your
relate.
word now.
If you can relate to Michelle right now, just say yes,
It was
because
nuts.
how many of
And
us have
so
done that?
yeah, so at the time I was Nikon, right? But
Right.
the Z7 and the Z8, which are, now there's a 9 and I don't know
Yeah.
what all else,
Yeah.
they were really on the horizon. They weren't out yet.
Right.
But what was out was the Sony A9, and the
Right.
Sony A9 was killing it. So, that was what, 6 years ago, 5, 6 years ago when the A9 came out.
Yeah.
And so my photographer friend who'd called my previous camera a dinosaur said, if you really want to get into this and you want to do this, you should get yourself a really nice wildlife camera, frames per second. Sony's on the leading edge right now. Nikon's kind of trailing, Canon's up there. If you want to get on the front end of this, I would recommend Sony. And so I jumped ship from Nikon over to Sony
Yeah.
and have stuck with them ever since. I
Yeah.
mean, so now I shoot with the Sony A1. I still have my A9 as my backup camera. It still works as a great camera.
Yeah,
And
that's great.
yeah, so I'm a Sony gal. I'm an alpha female, as they like to say.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I mean, it's hard once you switch to then switch to another brand. So if you switch, you got to switch. For me, it's muscle memory, and I don't want to mess with that once
No,
I have it
well,
down.
and if you're a Sony shooter, you know that the Sony menu is sort of a hot mess. So
Mm,
once you figure out that mess, you don't ever want to figure out anybody else's
right.
mess. Like you just go with it. And for my Nikon, because remember, I was a people photographer, not a wildlife photographer.
Right.
So I didn't have hardly any lenses. The only
Right.
thing I did pretty much was people. I had like 2 lenses to my name.
Yep.
And I had like a 24-240 Tamron zoom lens, which like it's the opposite of sharp. You know what I mean? So it was the perfect time. Like I didn't have,
Right.
my camera bag was not full. If I
Right.
wanted to switch companies now, it would be a nightmare. I would need a second mortgage. Like
Right.
it wouldn't work.
Yeah. I shot Canon in point and shoot all my life. And then when I finally got the DSLR, I got the Canon Rebel, finally would spend money on myself, with all instead of the kids. And then someone in my neighborhood was selling, like you just said, his whole bag of Canon. So I upgraded that Rebel pretty quick, and like he was just handing me stuff. And of course I was like, oh, okay. I you know, I didn't really know what I was getting into at the time, or
You
what was
don't.
good
You
and what
don't
was
until you
bad.
do.
But yeah, yeah, right,
The
exactly.
wish list starts, right?
It's a
I mean, and right
process.
now, Nikon is caught up to Sony and Canon. I don't like to use the word caught up, but Nikon's got
Right.
some incredible equipment, and
Yeah.
Canon, beautiful. I mean, so you can't go wrong. It
I
doesn't
was
matter
gonna
if you shoot
say,
with Canon, Nikon, or Sony. Pick which one that fits you. One of the other reasons why, which might be helpful for some of the women out there, is that I have smaller hands,
mhm,
and the Sony body was small. So I
yeah,
actually debated between Sony and Canon, but when I put the Canon camera in my hand, I struggled holding it, the grip
yeah,
with it, because
yeah,
I've
yeah,
got smaller fingers,
yeah.
whereas the Sony was smaller and it fit in my grip better. So
Yeah.
ultimately, it did come down to that for me, was grip. I
Right.
could
I
grip
have heard
the
that from
Sony
women.
too.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I feel like I don't want to add a battery grip or anything this for the same reason.
Yep.
My hands.
Yep.
My hands need to fit and I just can't do it, you know.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. So when you met Aaron, did you go on any trips with him later? Any dream trips with him or
Well, that's when he told me that I had a dinosaur. Yeah, I went on an orca trip with him twice,
okay.
actually, two
Okay.
more additional times.
Oh wow.
They've made it increasingly, not only have they made it more increasingly difficult to see the orca out there based on distances. You've got to be like, I don't want to exaggerate it. It's probably 200 to 300 yards away from them now. And I understand there's a very small population left out there, so they're trying to protect them. But it's
Yes.
just really hard to get those intimate opportunities that you once upon a time had.
Mhm.
And then I went on one more trip with them to Alaska.
Oh
And
wow.
that is probably one of my most favorite trips, because it's one of my most favorite places to go. I've been to Alaska probably 13 times. I have the advantage.
Oh my
I have,
gosh, what?
yeah, I have friends out there, so I have
Okay,
places
okay.
to stay.
I have
But
not heard that from you
ironically,
before. My face was just like, Michelle. Okay, so
right?
13 times to Alaska.
Yes, but here's
So,
the thing, is that I wasn't a photographer for like 10
right.
or 11 of them.
Okay, but
So
still,
I was just a novice photographer, right?
right,
I'd like bring my camera with me, and if I saw something, I would take a picture, but I didn't. So now I'm so mad at myself for those other 10 times. Like, what? And I didn't have kids, so I had no
right.
responsibility other than to the husband. And he was always like, yeah, go ahead, go ahead. Like, go have
But you're
fun.
laying a foundation. I feel like just going one time, just how massive it is, and it just
Yeah.
blows your mind that I'm not sure. Like the first time you just want to take pictures of everything.
So
Um,
beautiful there. It's
so
just,
beautiful.
that's is if I didn't want to be married, I would live in Alaska, but I like my husband, so
Yeah,
I
yeah.
stay planted. We
It
won't
was
always be in
wonderful.
Minnesota, but it's
Yeah.
yeah, it's
So tell
beautiful.
me about a dream moment there. Did you have some kind, like, what did you photograph?
Well, we went for bears, right?
Okay, yes.
That's, most people go to Alaska for bears. And you've seen pictures of Brooks Falls, and you've
Yep.
seen pictures of Lake Clark, and you hear these photographers talk about these intimate moments that you're just walking on this land with these bears, but it seems surreal that you could do that, because these aren't grizzly. They're a different form of grizzly bear. They're called a coastal brown bear, and
Hmm.
I think they're bigger. I think they're bigger than grizzly bear. And so this scene that you have up on the screen right now is the scene that I came around this platform that is in Brooks Falls. So you come onto this walkway, this wooden walkway, and then you come up onto this platform to
Hmm.
protect you and the bears, because the bears can walk in under and around the platform. But this was the scene that I walked up to the very first time I came around the corner on that platform. And I mean, when do you get to watch bears take a bath and eat in
Yeah.
this numerous amount of numbers? Like, it was insane. And to
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
right, that you can't see, why I didn't do a pano shot, I'm not really sure. But I mean, look at how many bears is just in this picture alone. I mean, what is there, 13 bears or so? And then off to my right in this picture that you can't see, there was probably equal amount of
Wow.
bears. So
Wow. Yeah.
to walk up and see 20 or 30 plus bears in one spot was like just kind of mind blowing for me. I was
Yeah.
like, are you kidding me right now?
Yeah.
So, and then we followed that with our Lake Clark expedition, where we got to be on the ground with the bears and had some
Oh, wow.
really super cool encounters. So, I've been blessed with really amazing wildlife experiences. Even here in my own backyard this spring, I
Yeah.
had some amazing wildlife encounters with some owls and baby owls. But those moments that just make you kind of go, wow, this was one of those wow moments when you get to
Yeah.
see all those beautiful bears just living their best life,
Yep.
doing a little bubbly bath and having a little fish dinner. Yep,
Right.
little sushi.
Right. Brooks Falls was like I just you can't imagine it till you get there. And it's over. It's I didn't get to see a lot of bears there, just a few. But I was a few days too early, but just it is really good to go and see it in person. Just so you because you
Yeah,
see so many pictures, so many
yeah.
iconic pictures, and you have such beautiful pictures from like I think it's from Lake Clark, some cubs, and I mean just
Oh
the
yeah.
interactions that you have, they are so cute. And I think what you're saying is like you're sitting there and you can't believe it's real.
Yeah, you just it looks
Yeah,
just you're like, am I really experiencing this right now? Like,
exactly.
you think about your everyday where you get up and you're having a cup of coffee or breakfast and you're headed off to work and you're sitting in traffic. And then all of a sudden the next day you get up, have a cup of
Exactly.
coffee and you walk out back door of your hotel or we were
Yeah,
staying in these cabins and you're like, this is my view
I
today.
know.
Like, are
I'm
you
not doing laundry today. What?
right? Like, are you serious right now? I felt like I was in an IMAX theater looking
Yes.
at everything kind of moving around and happening. And
Yeah.
yeah, it was
I kept
cool.
saying like it's just pinch me because this is
Right.
so surreal. Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about the owls because you did post a lot of owls this spring.
I know I went a little owl crazy, didn't I?
That's
Like I
okay.
think that my followers were like, does she shoot anything else? But you shoot
No.
what you have access to, and
Right.
that's one thing that I never really took advantage of. Like I said, I discovered that we had wildlife in Minnesota. Who knew?
Mm-hmm.
And it was thanks to a bunch of friends sort of opening my eyes to that. Like I can literally walk out my door and I can go shoot.
Mm-hmm.
And owls are readily accessible where I live. You can find them virtually anywhere. But there are certain, I've gotten picky now, right? So I'm looking for certain
Right.
interactions, I'm looking for certain
Sure.
opportunities. And one of the opportunities that I got this spring that I posted a lot about was saw-whet babies. And if you are not familiar with the saw-whet owl, I think they're like the second or third smallest owl. So
Mm-hmm.
you're talking like pop can, right?
Right.
Like a can of soda. That's about how big they are. Well, they're babies. They're even tinier. Like they're so ridiculous.
When you
And
posted that, I don't think I would say I maybe one or two times I've seen pictures of Sawet babies. I don't
it's
know if
pretty
that I
rare.
have. Yeah,
Yeah, and
that was
we
great.
had a family of four that we were watching. So we were following mom and dad.
Mm.
We found the nest when they were still making babies, and then we knew mama was in there. And so it just what an incredible experience. Like again, one of those moments we knew that one of the babies was they were making so much noise in their nest. We just absolutely knew it was going to be any day
Right,
that they were going to pop their head up and be like, "Oh, hey, world, how's it going?"
right.
And so I happened to be there with three or four other friends, and sure enough, that little baby popped his head up for the first time, and you're like, "Oh, like."
That's amazing.
And they got
Amazing.
the puffy feathers, the big brown feathers,
Yeah,
and um, and pictures just cannot give you a size comparison to
right.
how big they are. But if you got an iPhone, that's about how big they are. They're
Wow.
just the cutest little things. And they stayed with us for weeks and weeks and weeks in the
Oh,
same. And so it was an after work, or I'd get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and head into the woods, and
mhm.
they'd just be perched there. And there was the youngest and the oldest, so the first to fledge and the last to fledge. And you could tell who the runt of the litter was, just like
Yeah,
puppies.
yeah.
And they were like totally bonded. So if you
Oh,
found them, inevitably they were together and pruning. I always say preening, but it's preening
preening.
each other, preening. I always say pruning. Everyone makes fun of me. So they're preening each other all the time.
Oh,
So I hope that they're still living their best life together, but obviously
right,
they have fledged beyond where we can find them anymore, and
right,
they're off to be adults and do
right. Well,
adult things.
what a privilege to be able to see that
Yeah.
cycle. That's amazing.
Yeah. That's pretty cool.
And maybe they'll be back. Maybe that mating pair will be back again next year. And
I think it was a pretty big eruption year for saw-whets because I've heard a
mm,
lot of cool saw-whet stories around the country where they saw
mm,
a lot of saw-whets. Owls go through eruption years where they have
mm.
very large groups of them, and it might have been what you would call an eruption year for saw-whets.
Oh, interesting. I
I can't
know that
guarantee that, but
here
there were
at
a lot.
Purdue, here at Purdue, they do some banding, and I need to reach out and ask their numbers and how that was.
Yeah, be curious
Yeah,
because it
I'm
seemed to
really
be a
curious
really
now.
good saw wet year. I don't
Yeah,
know if it was because we had moderate temperatures, especially
right.
here in Minnesota. We
Yeah,
really didn't have a winter, so there maybe
right.
wasn't as much migration. I don't know.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So, do you have any tips about just ethical owl photography and how you guys, made sure that you weren't disturbing them? And
You know, with owls, it's interesting. So with saw-whets, they're sort of innate to them to freeze when they're not really sure what's going on. So if they see
mm-hmm.
you, there's just sort of their natural to not move.
Right,
And so it makes it really easy to not really bother them to take pictures of them because they're not
right,
moving. They're just
right, right,
sitting there perched. And I
right.
think because they were aware of our presence because we were around, they
Mm-hmm,
really
mm-hmm.
did not pay attention to us
Yeah,
whatsoever. I mean,
yeah,
we could have walked right by them and they were just like
yeah,
snoozing, sleeping. I
yeah.
mean, it's all what they're accustomed to. The area that they were in was, fairly
Right,
residential
right.
slash.
We have an owl
It
like
wasn't a
that in
big
town.
forest, is what I'm trying to say. They were,
Right,
they were most of these owls are in neighborhoods. That's how I'm finding them.
right.
It's
But I
because
noticed you didn't tag their locations. You didn't, you
no,
waited a little
no,
bit.
no, no,
Right,
no. Yep. Yep.
right,
We kept it on the down low and
yeah,
we didn't actually let a lot of people know. There was a group of
right.
us that knew about it. And then we waited to post once they had fledged to protect
Exactly.
them.
Right, right.
So, yep.
That's what I
Yep.
thought. But
Yep.
you just kept posting there. I'm like, man, she is having a great spring. That is great. We have one little resident, Eastern Screech Red Morph. We named
Oh,
her,
yeah.
everybody calls her Ruby, but she just lives right off a path. So,
Yep.
you can see her very easily, which is really nice. But I don't have
Yeah.
a lot of owls here that I see in Indiana, but lucky to see some sometimes. So that's nice. But so tell me a little bit about your trip to the Badlands. That looked amazing.
Yeah, that was a
Or cheap and
whirlwind trip. Whirlwind.
yeah, I
Like
noticed
most
that.
people assumed we were gone forever, and it was a
Yeah,
girlfriend and I. We got in the
yeah.
car on a Thursday afternoon, and we were home by dinner on Sunday, literally. And it's like it's 8 hours out there, but we had
Yeah.
heard that the burrowing owl babies is what we went out there for, and
Hmm.
then some sheep and landscape because I still have a love of landscape too. And I thought,
Right.
well, it's full moon. It had been super smoggy or foggy from some of the fires and stuff, so I knew we'd get those really interesting pink and orange hues with the sun and the moon. So I
Hmm.
was like, all right, well, let's just. We decided we had been talking about it, talking about it, and talking about it, and then very last minute we're like, all right, let's go.
Yeah.
So we stayed at some interesting hotels along the route because that was all that was available. But we didn't sleep a lot. We would get up at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning to get out and see as much as we could and then stay out past sunset like a typical wildlife
Yeah.
photographer would. But we got
Yeah.
to hang out with these baby burrowing owls and they were learning how to fly. And it was
Oh,
the silliest, funniest thing in the world. They were very skittish. So we had to stay in our car. So we stayed in our car, rolled the windows down, and had our
yeah.
cameras out the car windows
Yeah.
so that because if we opened up the door, they were gone down in the
Right.
hole.
Right.
They were
Right.
like
You
all
just
of the
use your
ground
car as a
dogs
blind. Yeah.
scream at them, like, hey, intruder, intruder, there's a human coming, get
Right.
down. So
Right. Right.
they would stay in the car and but they were learning how to fly, and it was like six of them, and they would just
Oh,
jump up and down and up and down, and they were fluttering constantly. And they're hilarious to watch. I
they
mean,
are.
they're
Yes.
so funny, and they run all over the place. Like they half the time they don't even fly, they just run. And it just there's just something really funny about watching an owl run across the
Yeah, I
plain.
have not seen them yet, so I'm gonna have to put that on my bucket list. I
You're
mean,
gonna have to put them on your bucket
everything
list.
is, but
Yeah.
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 And you
Yeah.
got bighorn sheep, and the landscapes you got with the moon are gorgeous.
Yeah. So, and
Gorgeous.
I mean, I got some nice environmentals with those sheep. I
Hmm.
mean, that's
Hmm.
something that I've been exploring a lot. I'm kind of morphing into a little bit more environmentals. And then I'm also exploring some macro photography. So I
Hmm.
was playing with tree frogs and
Oh,
flowers last
yeah,
couple
I
of
was gonna
weeks.
ask you, where are you find I don't know how to find tree frogs. So after this, you're gonna have to tell me how to find tree
They're
frogs.
everywhere. They're
It's
everywhere right now here. So,
the colors
but
of it.
I had some neighbors reach out to me and say, "Hey, I've got a bunch of frogs and I've got
Aw.
flowers." So I was like, "Well, let's go find these little buggers." And they again, when you look at my camera, I mean, you have to really think about how big that flower is and then how big that frog
Right.
is on that flower. I mean,
Right.
these frogs are
Right.
the size of a dime. You know, they're small. They're
Yeah.
really small, but boy,
It's just your
you have,
gallery looks so beautiful with that color, all that color
yeah,
pop. It's just
yeah.
beautiful. So I need to explore that a little more. I have a little
Mushrooms
corner.
next. That's what I'm doing
Pardon?
next. I'm going to go out and do mushrooms next.
Mushrooms. I have seen people doing that. It's so cool, the
Yep.
macro mushroom stuff. Yeah, I
Yep.
don't have a macro lens. So
Oh,
I
you got
need
to go.
that's yeah, that's kind of on my maybe next year do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yep.
you have been on, I know one thing I noticed about you right away was that you have such great advice about workshops and you've been on a lot of workshops.
Yeah.
And I just found that your advice was so wise for me. And so tell me a little bit about how you choose a workshop. You can tell me, you can tell us workshops you've been on. What are you looking for when you look for a workshop?
Well, and there's so many different facets that you can look at when you're looking at workshops. But one of the key things that I'm looking for, of course, is to align with the photographer that I really enjoy their photography. So I want to
Okay.
learn from them how they're taking the pictures that they've taken, and I
Mhm.
want to emulate that. So, you know, I see something that they've taken, I'm like, well, I want that shot.
Right.
I want somebody to teach me, how did you get that shot? Like,
And you have to make sure there will be photography instruction because some do
yes.
not have photography instruction.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and that's a big part of it. So
Yeah.
you want to
Yeah.
look at the student to instructor ratio. You
Mm-hmm.
know, for me, I really don't want there to be more than 5 to 8 of us with an instructor,
Mm-hmm.
because I don't know how that instructor sort of gets around and is able to work with everybody.
Right.
Because, you know, sure, I mean, I'm published and have had some successes in photography. So depending on how you define professional, you could define me as professional, but if you only define me professional that I do it full time, well, then I'm not
Right.
professional.
Right.
So
Right.
look at it either way you want to. But regardless, when I go with a photography instructor on a trip, my expectation is that their understanding level of photography is higher than mine,
Right.
and that they're willing to work with all levels of photography and help me take mine from the level that I'm at to the next level that I want to be at.
Right.
Because I want to emulate them. I want to be them, which means I want to improve. And I think, you know, the minute you stop thinking that you can get better and you don't keep working at it to get better, that's when your photography just goes flat and goes stale, which none of us ever want, because,
Right.
you know, the technology of these cameras and what we're able to do with them is so amazing. I mean, I'm even dipping into drone photography a little bit now because it gives you a whole different perspective on
Yeah.
wildlife and landscape.
Right. Right. Wow. I'm intimidated by that. So I have to learn that fast
Well,
too.
me too. I picked a cheap one so I can crash
Yeah.
it and
Right.
not fix
Crash
it
it.
bad.
Yeah.
But so you want to look at an instructor that you look up to, or a
Okay.
photographer that you look up to, student ratio. Looking for that one-on-one help is really critical for me to grow.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, what unique experience can they bring to you that you can't get on your own? Are they
Yeah.
taking you on a really cool 4x4 in the back of the woods, excuse me, that nobody else knows about?
Right.
You know, are they taking you to some unknown landscape places that not everybody and their grandmother has a picture of?
Right.
Because, you know, everybody has seen a picture of, I want to think of the Tetons, the Mormon Row.
Yep. I
I
was
mean,
gonna say that
every
too.
photographer has that in their portfolio,
Yeah.
right? So I don't necessarily want to go take a picture of that.
Right.
And if I am going to take a picture of it, you better show me an angle I've never seen before.
Right. I remember in the fall you waited in line and it was so many people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very much so. So
Yeah.
yeah, you want somebody that's going to take you to the next level. And then, you know, think about how you travel too. I think that's a critical piece of it. Like, what's your mobility?
Right.
Can you go out and hike 8 miles through mud up to your hips? Or are you
I
more of
tried.
the, right? You tried. Or are you more of the, let's roll on to the scene, dump down my tripod and let's go type of person?
Yeah.
Do you want a tent and get up in the morning and brush your teeth with a stick? Or do you want to sleep in a hotel? And if you want to sleep in a hotel, is it a 5-star? Is it a 3-star? Is it just glamping?
Right.
Because I don't want to hike 7 miles anymore. I'm
Yeah.
not in shape probably to hike 7 miles with gear. Because remember, it's
Right.
always with gear.
Right.
And my gear is heavy, you know,
Yeah.
if I want to bring all my stuff. So
Right.
think about how that is. So not only your mobility or willingness to be mobile, your overnight, and then do you have any other restrictions? You know, if I think about allergy restrictions or anything like that, that will make your trip either less or more enjoyable. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of different things you got to look at when you're looking at instructors. But the more critical piece of all of that is, will they give you the one-on-one and, you know, time that you're looking for? And will they teach you and elevate you? If they're
Yeah.
not going to teach you and elevate you, then maybe look at a different workshop.
I think those are all that's all such good advice. And I think when you're looking at workshops, you should be asking that instructor questions too, like you
Yeah.
said, and you're figuring out, you're reading what they are going to do, but then asking more questions and then sort of seeing, do I fit?
Well, and watch your budget too, because
I
you
was
know,
just
one
going
of
to
the
say,
things,
yeah,
yeah, because you know, one of the things I was looking at is when I first started doing these photo tours, I'd be like, oh, that photo tour is X amount of dollars. Let's say
right,
it's $5,000. And you're like, okay, I got to save $5,000. Well, probably not. You probably got to save a lot more because you're going to probably pay a single supplement if you don't want to sleep with somebody else.
right,
So that single supplement would be $500 or $1,000. Now your budget just went up.
right,
That probably doesn't include airfare.
right,
So start looking and researching the locations you want to go to so you can budget for airfare. And then last but not least, maybe you're picking something you've never done before. Do you have the right equipment? Does it require boots and waders and a new jacket and a different style bag because you're going to
right,
go on a puddle plane and your roller bag won't work?
right.
All those things I learned the hard way.
I
Like
know. Yeah.
my budget was one, and then all of a sudden I
It's
spent an extra
not,
$2,000
that's right.
because I was buying all the stuff or renting the equipment.
Right.
So your budget is more than just the cost of the trip. There's a
Right.
lot more to it than just that.
And if you're going to Alaska, you're paying for your flight into one of the major cities and then your flights out to the smaller. That's what I had to
Yeah.
do. And then the thing that I didn't even consider because I had never done a big workshop, a group workshop, was the tip for the staff and the lodge.
Yes, the tipping, because it
So
can
it
be
was new. That's
intense.
just learning and like
Yeah.
thinking, oh
And you
man,
want a tip if they've done a good job, right? I
right,
mean, some of these
exactly. And
guys,
they did do a good
oh,
job. And
yeah.
our workshop leaders did tell us ahead of time.
Yep.
And so that was really good because it was much more in the budget than I had realized. So, it's just a learning curve when you haven't done these things. So,
And I would, you know, one last thing I might add too is that don't be afraid to go with a photographer that is a really great photographer that maybe is new to doing tours.
mhm,
It might not be the well-oiled machine that you'll get from some of the bigger players,
yeah,
but some of these photographers who are just going into tours that are sort of helping support not only their family or their habit or
yeah,
whatever it is,
yeah,
they're the ones that are going to give you all the attention in the world. They're the ones that are still excited about, you know, teaching people and
yeah,
excited about what they're doing. And so don't pass them off just because they're new. Like
yeah.
really dig into that
I think
because
Shauna Hart is on right now, and I think she's just starting. And I know she's passionate and she's going to be great at what she's doing. So it's, I would love to do that someday, but here from Indiana, I don't think I'm doing tours in Indiana. But you do start thinking like, who is kind? Whose
yes.
work do you love?
Yep.
Who do you want to spend 2 days? Who do you want to spend a week with?
Yeah.
So, I mean, and I think it's so worth it. I don't know that I'm a group workshop person ever again, but I think I like just one-on-one better. But I really think it was worth it. It was worth getting to know people and seeing Alaska. And
That's where I've made some of my best friends. I
yeah.
was out in doing the Yellowstone winter, and I met one person I think is actually on here tonight, Nancy.
Oh,
She's one of my
fun.
dearest friends now. Her and Jennifer Hadley I met
Oh,
in
great.
Yellowstone. And then Lisa Roberti, who's another good friend of mine, I met her on a trip with Aaron to Orcas. So the nice thing about these group tours is that they're like-minded people.
That's
And
right.
you know, I was blessed to meet you, not on a tour. We just happened to connect.
Yeah.
But that's not always the scenario. So the nice thing
Yeah.
about the group tours is it gives you all these great friendships that you might have not otherwise had with
Yeah.
people all over the world. And I've now traveled with Nancy and Jennifer, and they came up here and spent some owl time with me this past winter.
Oh,
So
that's great.
yeah,
That's
so you make some
amazing.
really
I've
good
heard great
friendships.
things about Jennifer Hadley. I've heard great things about her. Yeah.
Yeah, she's one of the ones that I was referring to sort of as doing new tours and stuff. And she's
Yeah.
She's really great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Her energy cannot be matched.
There are a lot of great women guides and tour
Yeah.
guides, workshop leaders
Yeah.
too. Yeah. So do you have personal projects in the works right now? What are you thinking about for the next year?
That's a good question. I'm going with a group of photographers to Iceland this fall.
Oh, fun.
And this is my first toe dip in to see what it might look like to lead a group
Ooh,
and take people. So everyone that's going
nice.
is a friend of mine that's a photographer. And so they're kind of my guinea pigs as we go
Mm-hmm.
out and try to traverse this idea of potentially maybe just doing a single trip like that every year,
I love it.
and potentially taking novice photographers and
Yeah.
teaching them a little bit about photography along the route and then
Yeah.
showing them some place as beautiful as Iceland. And so this will be my third trip out to Iceland, and I want to
Oh
do
my
it very
goodness.
differently this time.
So I was just gonna, your Northern Light photography is amazing, just amazing. People have to check that out. And then will you get a lot of that in Iceland? I know nothing except pictures I see.
That's the goal. So we're
Okay.
in what's called a, so we our Earth has 11-year solar cycle. And so we're coming into a solar major right now with Northern
Okay.
Lights. So the
Okay.
reason why I'm able to get a lot of photography of Northern Lights right now is because we're moving into a solar major. We'll be
Yeah.
on the other side of that probably by mid to late 2025, and we'll
Okay.
go back down. And
Okay.
so part of the reasoning for this trip in September is that it will have enough darkness in Iceland starting mid-September that with any luck, I will be able to see quite a bit of northern lights. And the latitude is much higher than Minnesota,
Mm-hmm.
the hemisphere latitude, I think. Anyway, I should be able to see with much more ease, see lights in Iceland, even more so than in Minnesota. But we've had some incredible storms in the last couple of months. So
Yeah.
I've been
Yeah.
able to see some really great northern light photography in my own backyard.
Yeah. I mean, people got them here in Indiana a
I
couple
know.
months ago. That was crazy.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
couldn't see it. I couldn't get it to work, and I didn't see it. But
Gonna use your camera. You won't see it with your eyes at first.
yeah, I think
Yep.
I just didn't stay up late enough, probably. And so some people
It
got them
could
right.
be.
Yeah. People got
I
it right
tell
around the corner.
everybody when they've not seen it before to do one of two things. First
Okay.
of all, take your iPhone and point it north and
Yes.
use your iPhone camera or
Yes.
your Android to look for
That's what
color.
we were doing. Yes.
Yep. And then once you sort of spot that area, it looks like someone's got a pair of queen size sheets that they're flapping in the wind and they're moving them around because your eyes, unless it's a super strong storm, you're going to see more like white sheets moving around and you're going to see a lot of movement, not necessarily color. But
Mm-hmm.
as it heats up, you'll start to see some green hues and some pink hues. You've
Gorgeous.
really got to be more like an Iceland or Svalbard
Yeah.
or the northern parts of Alaska to see that true color with the naked eye.
Yeah.
Minnesota, we've had a couple of storms lately. The most recent one I saw pink, purple, and green with my
You
eyes.
said your Crayola box. That was so true.
All of us. Yep.
Was so true. Well, people can start writing questions in the chat right now if you want to. If
Yeah.
you have any questions for Michelle, we can just keep talking probably. But if anyone has any questions for her, please let us know. And then I'm going to do a quick round with you as well. What else would you
Okay.
like to talk about, Michelle? Well, I know we were moving pretty quickly. We have sort of an outline of what we were going to talk about, and I feel like we just can keep talking and
Just
talk.
keep
So.
going.
So, tell me a little bit about after Iceland, what would you like to do?
Well, I've got a
I'm
trip planned
hoping you're going to say Tetons so we can meet.
no Tetons. I've got a trip with the family out to Europe. And
Oh,
so
yes, that's
when
I
I'm with
remember you
my
saying that.
family, it's minimal photography. That's kind of the
Right.
agreement. I get to go on photo trips and then we do family trips. But we're excited. We're going to go out to Europe and I'm sure that I will do some photography out there,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
no wildlife is on the docket. But hopefully I'll find some cool landscape or hardscape to take some pictures of, architecture and
Yes, you'll
such. We're
find it.
headed
You're
to
great at it.
well, we'll see. We're headed to Amsterdam, Belgium, and France. So
Oh,
there's got to be
wow.
something in there, right? Um,
Maybe. I mean, who knows?
right, just maybe something. And then
That's
next year,
great.
the goal is Churchill.
Oh, yeah.
I have just this thing for Arctic animals, and I
Yeah.
really want to see polar bears in the
Yeah.
wild. And so my goal is to get up to Churchill, but typically people go to Churchill when they're out on the ice and I actually want to see them in flowers. So I want to go in
Yeah.
the summertime
Yeah.
Because that gives me two opportunities. I don't know if you know this, but the largest concentration of beluga whales come into the Churchill Sound, and they gather every summertime in July. And you can go out
Nice.
on a kayak or paddle boat or
That's
whatever
amazing.
and interact with these belugas as much as you can interact with an animal underwater. But
Right.
to me, that just sounds amazing. So I figure I'll go in the water and hang out with the belugas as much as they'll let me, and then come back out and look for some polar bears and hopefully get a shot or two. They should also have their babies and their cubs at
Oh,
that time, so maybe
yeah.
get some baby shots nursing or something. I don't know, if I have high hopes, but I always find out that if you pre-visualize what
I
you
was
want
just
to
gonna say,
see,
yeah.
you may get some portion of it to actually come true.
I
So
was
that's
just
my
gonna
goal
ask
for
you
next year.
that. I was just going to ask you that. Do you like pre-visualize and think about shoots before you think about the images you want before you go?
Absolutely. I always have a shot sheet. Always have
Oh,
a shot.
wow.
Like I want this, this, and this.
And do you type it out?
Sometimes I type it up. Sometimes I just write it out. If I'm at home and I'm just going up north or whatever, I
Yeah.
don't have a shot sheet. But if
Right.
I'm going on a specific trip where I want to do wildlife, like we did for South Dakota, I had a shot sheet. Like I wanted an environmental of a sheep.
Yes.
I got it. I wanted burrowing owls. I
Yes.
didn't know I was going to get the whole fun flight shots and stuff.
Right.
And now I really want to experience. I want my viewers to experience it with me. So now I'm trying to get into video. I'm
Yes.
trying to do little snippets of video,
Yeah.
because I just think it's so cool when they can actually see more than just the picture or see where the picture came from.
Right.
Hence the
Right.
environmental shots and
Right.
everything else. So I don't know. I'm just trying to do it all, man.
I
That's
mean,
the
it's like
problem with
there's so
photography.
much.
It's just there's so much to do. Like every time you turn the corner, there's a new lens and a new critter you want to shoot or a
I
new thing
know.
you want to shoot. And they got all these friends that are traveling all over the world. And I'm like, well, come on, I want to go shoot that. I had some friends shooting
Yeah.
cougars, and
Yeah.
another friend of mine's out shooting wolves in the sea. I didn't even know sea wolves was a
Oh,
thing. I was
yeah.
like,
That's
is that a
amazing.
thing?
Yes.
Like she's out shooting wolves in the sea. I'm like, what is that?
That's
So
totally on my bucket list. Yeah.
oh,
So I
yeah,
think when I first started, just because you're so bogged down by the technical to have a
yes,
shot list or think, it's like I can't. I'm just trying to get the
yeah,
triangle right and try my
yeah,
white balance and like
right,
get it
right,
sharp. And
yeah.
as you progress and you practice and practice and practice, I think in the last couple of years, I'm finally in that thing where I can visualize it and I know what I want. I know what I'd like to see. I kind of had that when I went to Alaska, and a couple of those
Yeah.
worked out. I just didn't have I really wanted moms and cubs and didn't see that. But so sometimes it happens and sometimes it takes years to happen.
Yeah, and
So
sometimes you just got to go back, right?
that's right.
That's
You
got to
have
keep
to.
going back. I still don't have the most epic moose shot that I want, and I have
Yeah.
visualized it every time, and it's never happened. And other
Yeah.
people have gotten it, but a moose
Yeah.
down at Schwabacher Landing in the Tetons
Yeah.
with the
I mean, I've
Tetons in the background. Come on,
I've
like
only
I keep
seen one
visualizing
laying
that.
down there.
Yep, no, I've never even seen one down there.
Yeah.
Like my timing stinks. Like
I finally saw one this spring and she was laying down. And so, but
yeah.
still, I was like, I finally saw one here. I think we have
Oh
a
man, I'm
question. I
so
think we have a
jealous.
question. I think
Yeah,
Jen
so
is
I
asking, hi, I'm just getting into photography. I live in Massachusetts. Aside from tours, how can I locate wildlife spots in my area? Also, what is the best way to get feedback on my photos? That's a
yeah,
two great
I
questions.
can tell you how I started, and then she can you can take it from there too.
Okay.
But the way that I started finding wildlife in my areas, I was reaching out to local photographers who were posting pictures. So I found Facebook groups that
Mm-hmm.
aligned with the things that I wanted to see. So for instance, in Minnesota, we have a Facebook group called Owl About Minnesota, and
Okay.
there's Owl About Wisconsin. I think there's even an Owl About Iowa. And so I joined Owl About Minnesota, and I started seeing all these amazing owl pictures. And then I just started private messaging people. Hey, you saw that owl. And let me tell you, owl people are super guarded about where
Of
their owls
course.
are.
Of course.
But there's always one person. You'll eventually find one person that'll take a little mercy on you.
Yeah.
And I went out with that one person that took mercy on me,
Yeah.
and we joined we created a little not we personally, but there was a Telegram group created that we got added to, and
Mm-hmm.
it's a Minnesota owl group, and we share with each other where the owls are, or when we find them, or we keep each other up to date with certain birds like kingfishers or hummingbirds, or some of the cool stuff that we've got going on right now. Like right now, there's a lot of indigo buntings and
How
sunflower fields.
pretty.
They're
Yes,
fun to
yes.
shoot. That contrast of color is amazing to get
Mhm.
shots of. And so I would encourage you to kind of figure out what you'd like to go shoot. Start doing a little research on Facebook and see if there's some Facebook or Instagram groups in your area that are shooting exactly what you'd like to shoot. And then start reaching out to those photographers to find out if they might take you to a location or share with you where they are, and just let them know, hey, I'm new to photography. I'll keep it confidential. I'm happy to meet you there. It sounds a little scary, but I've never run into trouble, and I have met a lot of amazing photographers and
Yeah,
seen a lot of cool stuff
yeah,
literally in my backyard, 10 minutes
yeah.
away, 5 minutes away, 20 minutes away. So, and that's the best way to practice too.
It
Just get
really
out
is.
every single day and
Yeah.
find stuff. I mean, the whole frog and flowers was just because I wanted to do macro, and I didn't want to start with jumping spiders because they kind of creeped me out at first. So I thought frogs were the other jumpers that were a little bit
Cute.
easier to manage than
Yeah,
eight-legged furry creatures. So
yeah.
yeah, just get out with local groups. I don't know, Jen, if you can add to that for her.
I mean, I think you're braver than I am. I tend to be a little shy or shyer, and so I haven't really reached out to people, but because in my area it wasn't as accepting to be reach out to people. So and there's not many wildlife photographers here. There's a lot of birders. So
Yeah,
I
birders.
just, yeah. So I would just go out to my local nature preserve and just basically do the rounds early in the morning, in the evening. And I just keep my eyes open. And eventually you're laying that ground to get familiar with that space, and you're to the sounds, to where things are, what's peeking out, squirrels, raccoons, great blue heron, deer. Eventually I had deer that I knew where they trusted me. I'd stay my distance, but they knew who I was. I'd wear the same coat, the same hat, just make sure I'm that same person that's not going to hurt you. And they eventually just would let me photograph them. And so I think it is what we've been saying throughout this is your local nature places that could be 10 minutes away. There's so much going on in there that people are driving by and they have no idea how amazing it is in there. I've had baby fawns born right like out, and there's just a few minutes away there are cars going back and forth to work, and I'm like, this baby was just born. People are driving to work and they don't know how
They have
amazing.
no idea. Yeah.
Yeah, just have no idea how amazing a little 105-acre preserve could be. And I think it's what you're saying. It's practice, practice, practice. And I think I started realizing I'm getting a sense of this. I'm getting a sense of nature's sounds. And it seems like you can step into your local area, or even like now when I go to the Grand Tetons, and I'm like, today the whole park feels different. Each day feels different. You can get a mood right away when you step into the forest, like, oh, it's a quiet day today. Like, it's going to be quiet. I can tell. Maybe not quiet in terms of wildlife, but there's something different going on. There's a different mood. And I just noticed that I'm built a foundation to where my wildlife senses and just started growing and growing and growing till now. I feel like, I don't know, I have a lot to learn, but I feel like I can sense things, and I can sense animals' behavior and things like that way better. It just takes time and practice. And Jennifer also asked the best way to get feedback. I think you have to find someone you trust, and you have to Michelle, you can add to this too, but I think you could ask for private coaching from somebody. You can ask, if you start going to nature preserves with somebody or local parks with someone, and you start building a relationship with them and you trust them, you can ask someone, hey, can you just look at my last 10 shots? Tell me what you think. I have a mentor that I do that with, and I'll just say, can you just look at my Instagram? And just right now I'm at the point where I can say, be brutal with me and let me know. But in the beginning, he would just be so nice and be like, what do you like about that photo?
You're like, not helpful.
But he knew it wasn't good.
Right.
But to protect me, we would bring out the things that I liked, and then he would, you know, teach me in that moment how I could have made it better in a gentle way. So for me, it has to be gentle, especially when I was first starting. And if I say be brutal with me, it still needs to be gentle and kind and wise. I don't want someone critiquing me that's going to be too mean, because then, you know, that hurts your craft. So
well, and once you have a group of photographers too, I do this when I'm out with some photographers. You know, you're kind of shoulder to shoulder with two
right.
or three other photographers. So you
Yeah.
all are taking the same picture.
Yeah.
And my favorite part of that is when you start to watch those fellow photographers post.
Mm-hmm.
Look at they were right next to you. They were in the same spot. Look
Yeah.
how they cropped it. Look how they saturated or unsaturated it. Look how they included the environmental aspect or didn't, how they chose. There's
Yeah.
so much learning. And then you can go back and look at your photo and go, okay, well, I liked this about this one and this about this one and this about this one. And then you kind of get to look at yours and go, okay, this is the craft I want to create. This is the
Right.
story I want to tell.
Yes.
This is how I want mine to look, you know, and you start to learn and you become your own critic by
Exactly.
looking at what you like about everybody else's. So
Yeah.
that's one way. If you don't have somebody that can give you direct feedback like you've got, Jen, you might be able to give yourself your own feedback just by standing shoulder to shoulder with other photographers and looking at how they envisioned the exact same scene that you did and
Yeah.
how they told the story differently than you did.
Yeah. And I think you have to give yourself permission to be a creative, to know that you have a story to tell. Like you said, you're going to craft something different than the person next to you. You're going to create art that matters and that is going to be different than someone else. And don't be harsh with yourself, because it's creative, it's art, it should be fun.
Yep.
And I am so hard on myself. I have imposter
We all are.
syndrome big time.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
But then I have to realize, but I love this so much. It's my art, it's my voice. And it's really a step-by-step thing, and you're going to grow, and like, it just takes time. It really does take time. I'm still growing and growing and growing. I can't wait to see where I am in 10 years with this. It's really,
Well, and then the sad thing is you look at stuff that you took 3-4 years ago and you thought 3 or 4 years ago,
I
you're like, I
know.
have arrived.
I
And then you look at
know.
stuff from 3-4 years ago and you go, I didn't arrive. Like, what happened there?
You know, yeah.
That was not
But it
my
was
best
part of the
plan.
process. And part of
Right? And you're like, what kind of equipment was I using? You know,
but the
operator.
exciting part is we were out in nature, and that's what's
That's
great
right.
about wildlife photography, is
You
that
know
the
what
moment
though?
was so amazing.
You got to pause on that. I think you've got to pause on that because that's the part that we all got to remember is like,
Yeah,
you're in that moment. Like, how
that's
many
right.
people, to your point, are driving by in the car, not realizing that a baby fawn was just born,
I
and
know.
you got to experience all of that. There's
Yeah.
so much outside the walls of our house or outside our car that people are literally driving by every single day, and us as wannabe wildlife photographers or wildlife photographers, professional, not professional, we're in it and
That's right.
we're smelling it, we're hearing it, we're
That's right.
experiencing it. Like, there is no better sport, activity, extracurricular, whatever it is, that you get to just be
Yeah,
in this
it's
amazing
amazing. And
environment.
like we were
Like,
saying, how
how
we
cool is that?
started, as we started, we were talking about the otters. I mean, it's magic,
It is. It's so cool.
and you
And
can't wait for it to happen.
Nancy, one of our guests, mentioned a local camera club, which I think
Okay.
is great too. So if
Yeah,
you're afraid to sort of tap on people's shoulders virtually through DMs or PMs, you could do a photography club.
yeah,
And also, I might also remind you that if you're out in these wildlife areas like Jen is, and you're going back to the same place every day to get a vibe on what the wildlife is doing and what wildlife you can see there, inevitably, if you're in a good spot, you are going to see other photographers.
right.
Don't be afraid to walk up next to them, because when they're sitting there waiting for something to happen, a lot of chatter happens and they will disclose a lot of locations and opportunities.
Yeah,
Use that and become their friend and give back when you can.
that's right.
Because at the beginning, it's all take, take, take when you're new. Eventually, you get to be the person that gives back to the next person that was you.
Yeah,
So it all comes really full circle. It's very
yeah.
cool.
And I think you just have to make sure that they know you're trustworthy, that you're not going to go blab locations, that you are there to be ethical, and that you're there because you care
Yep.
about nature, you care about wildlife,
Yep.
you're passionate about it, you want other people to care about wildlife. So I think that when you show who you are, then people will trust you. And I have met great friends doing this. And it is like a whole, and that was the purpose of this, is I want to build community. I want to hear more people and what they're doing. Like the adventures you have been on, Michelle, just amazing. I had no idea you'd been to Alaska 13 times. And I think you
Right.
talked to me about Churchill, and I'm like, should I now? I gotta go with her. But
Right.
yeah, but it's just so amazing. I'm so glad you got to join us. So at the end, I don't think we have any more questions. Oh, someone's here from Queensland,
I
Australia.
know. Can you believe
Hey,
that?
that's
Like,
so
I love that.
exciting.
We got to go there and meet
Yes,
up with Rebecca Connor
yes,
and go shoot the kangaroos and
that'd be
the koala
amazing.
bears and everything
Yes,
else.
my
She's
son
got
did
a
a
whole host of
semester
stuff that
there.
we don't have.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
I like to end like I've been doing this a long time. I like to end with a quick round. So I'm going to do. My husband's been passing me notes, everyone. I just want to tell you, under the door, like technical things. So I probably didn't do it all right, but that's what was happening when I was dipping down. He's passing me notes under
I
the
love it.
door.
I love
So
it.
that's
He's a
how fancy
wingman.
we are. So let's do a quick round.
Okay.
Thanks. Oh, thank you, Rebecca. Thank you. She says, come on down. That's
We're gonna come
amazing.
on down. Let's do it, Jen. Let's sign up.
Yeah. We're going to do a quick round with Michelle, and then she's going to tell you where you can find her. And I'll tell you about some of the upcoming things we're going to do, but we're at an hour, but we'll just take a few more minutes. Michelle, what is in your camera bag that you can't live without?
I have a travel tripod by Peak Design, and it will hold my 600 lens. It will hold my,
Wow.
50 millimeter lens.
Mm-hmm.
It's super compact and light. Like, I do not like carrying stuff. I barely carry a purse. I mean, I have a phone that's got a compartment to carry my driver's license. I don't like to carry stuff. So
Yeah.
it's ironic that I picked a sport where I got to carry stuff on my
It's
back all the
heavy.
time.
Yes.
Yes. So,
Yes.
but my Peak Design, I can't go anywhere without it. It's a really nice, small, compact, light-ish travel tripod.
That's great. Okay. What's in your bag, your camera bag that maybe you never use?
Polarizing filter. Why do we buy these things? Why? Like, what am I going to do with that? The purpose of a polarizing filter. So I just don't photograph when I would need one. I
Right.
photograph during sunrise, sunset,
Right.
in cloudy, even light days.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just sits in
Yep.
my bag and I don't use
Okay.
it.
Yeah. Yeah. I have some things like that. Favorite snack while editing or driving around to find wildlife?
Oh, my favorite is any type of white cheddar popcorn.
Yes.
And then, all right, if it's winter, I'm gonna have myself a nice cup of coffee, like a
Cozy.
nice little mocha.
Yes.
Otherwise, if it's summer, I'm probably gonna have a Coke Zero with a hint of cherry in it.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Okay. So, what wildlife experience made you laugh?
Most recently, the Broing Owls in South Dakota. They were so silly. Like they were just falling over each other and like I don't know, they would flap each other's wings in each other's face and knock each other over
That's
and they
awesome.
just didn't know what they were doing. They were
Yeah.
hilarious. They were so fun to watch.
And is there a wildlife experience that made you cry? Don't cry now.
I mean, there was I was in Africa and we were watching a pack of lions on two wildebeest
Yeah.
and the wildebeest had a lot of will to live. And so it was a
That's tough.
multi-hour event where the
Oh,
wildebeest kept getting up to try to move and they'd bring them back down. And yeah,
mm,
it's pretty hard. It's pretty heavy on your heart when you're
yeah.
watching stuff like that.
Yeah.
Or the great, kill that everybody wants to see when yeah. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's
It's
a
hard.
lot. It's nature. It's supposed to happen that way. The lions need to eat. You don't want them dying. But yeah, it's hard. It's hard
Yeah.
to watch sometimes, especially you seem to see that most in, well, my experience in Africa, because that's where, yeah, you're seeing a lot of that,
Yeah,
that
it's
prey
tough.
happening.
Yeah. I had a coyote like that this spring with a mule deer, and just a fuzzy faced little sweet thing. And it was just so hard. The face was right there, just a little doll. And
Uh,
it was
it's
tough.
hard.
It's tough.
It's tough. Yep. It's tough not to want to jump in and try to protect one or the other, but they've all got to eat.
They
Circle of
do.
life.
Yep. You have to
Yep.
realize I'm just a person watching. I have no say and
Yep.
control in this. Yep, that's right. So anything in what's a wildlife experience that touched your soul? For me,
Um,
wildlife photography is just also, I'm not gonna, it's like so emotional to me. Like it's just, it feeds me. So I'm
yeah.
wondering if you've had moments like that in nature. What's a moment you can think of like that that just fed you?
You know what? It's not only the nature and what's happening around you that feeds you, but sometimes it's the people that you're with too. You're
Mm-hmm.
creating such this cool little experience that
Yeah.
only you and two other people experienced, or you and three other people experienced. So it becomes a human element for me too, because
Mm-hmm.
you could talk about that moment for the balance of your life, like otters, you
Yeah.
know, or like when I was in South Carolina and we had this bear experience where we followed this bear for, I swear to God, a mile down the road when it was like 110 degrees out. I thought I was going to die. It was so hot. I mean, don't put me in the Carolinas. That's hot. And I don't think it was that hot. But it felt like it was
It
that
felt
hot.
like it. Yeah.
Yeah. But always the most
Someone's
soul
here from
filling.
North Carolina.
Was it
I don't
North
know.
Carolina? Did I
I don't
say
know if
South or West?
Carl's on, but
But the most soul filling for me always is on the water with whales.
mm,
Always, like
mm,
there's just something about whales. Like I said, I was going to be a a behavioral marine biologist. I thought, um, and I didn't obviously. But my next step or evolution in that soul filling is get in the water with them. So I am actively looking
yeah,
for an experience that will put me in the water with humpbacks or orca.
yeah, I
Uh,
would love to do
I
that
think it
too.
will terrify me as
Yeah,
well. So
yeah,
I need to make sure the heart is steady. But
yeah,
I just there's just something about their grace in the water and
mm,
coming up for air, and I don't know. There's
yeah,
just, for me, that is the best moments of my life outside of my
right,
family,
right,
specific
right,
wildlife. Yeah.
right. We have to remember those people. Yeah, they're the best.
Yeah,
They're the best
they're
things. They're the best things.
yeah, like I said, the only reason why I don't live in Alaska is because I don't want to be divorced. So
There is something though when it, like you said, when it's you, the animal, and the world is peaceful, and you're there alone with, or maybe with a couple people with this
yeah,
scene, and it's just, I had a moment when elk crossed the river one time during the rut in Wyoming, and they like several crossed, and then the bull came and looked right at me and stopped and then splashed across and bugled, and I was shooting the whole time, but then when I was done the tears started,
yeah,
and I told Dan, my husband, you're just going to have to give me a minute because that was one of those moments
yeah.
that
What did I
you
just
want.
experience?
Yeah,
Yep.
you don't think you're ever going to get to experience that. And the fog is there and the bugles are there. And you just feel like sort of like the veil has been pushed aside for a second to this beauty that you just cannot believe.
Yeah.
And so I think it's so important to stop and give thanks for that, give thanks to the animal for that, and just and be grateful. It's just
Yeah.
an amazing, amazing hobby or profession. So
Yeah. It's so
thank you
fun.
so much, Michelle. This has been so fun.
Yeah, it's been great.
Yes, I just love seeing your face. Can you tell
Likewise.
everybody where they can find you because you have amazing work?
Yeah, you can find me on Facebook, Michelle Osterhus Photography,
Mm-hmm.
and then you can also find me on Instagram at Michelle Osterhus Photos.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't find me in either one of those places, or you're not a social media bug, that's okay. You can go to michelleosterhusphotography.com. And I don't have the last couple of months worth of work up there, but eventually I get around to uploading some of that work and then getting rid of some of my older work. And I
Yeah,
try to keep it refreshed
yeah.
and rotated. I've got a lot of different galleries, so you can jump in and take a look at the different galleries I have out on my website. But I do update Facebook the most,
Mm-hmm.
and I do pretty good with Instagram, but Facebook is usually my go-to. So
Yeah, and we'll be watching for your Iceland trip. That's going to be amazing.
I hope we get some Northern Lights. Keep your fingers crossed for me. Hmm?
Well, thanks everybody so much. I hope you
Thank
enjoyed
you,
this.
everybody.
We had so much fun. Even
Yeah,
if just getting to talk to you, Michelle, it's worth it. It's so
so
fun.
great.
We do have a couple more coming up. Shauna Hart is going to join us in September, and then Maureen Matson and Jenny Cannon in October. And then I'm hoping Steve Mathis will join us in November. So it's going to be fun. If you'd like to follow along and know when more of these are coming up, you can sign up for my email list on my website, and I think on my Instagram profile. You can follow my Instagram, and I will definitely having more of these September, October, November, and I'm hoping that more and more people want to come on. I do have some more yeses from other people, just not dates yet. So I'm really excited to talk to more people. It's been really fun.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Let me know. Just message me or email me and let me know what you thought tonight. But it was great to have you all here. And thank you so much, Michelle. I'll see
You
you
bet.
soon.
Have a good night.
Okay.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.